Hello, hello! Welcome to Was It Worth It, the video game review podcast brought to you by SharcTank Media. I'm Tim.
And I'm Dane.
If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we both played a game and then we talk about it. So what game did we play, Dane?
This week we played This War of Mine, an extremely interesting survival crafting adventure game? That might be the best way to describe it. It's developed and published by 11-Bit Studios and available on PC for $19.99. This War of Mine is a game that takes place within a war-torn city, presumably somewhere in Europe?
Yeah, Eastern Europe or Russia, perhaps?
Yeah. Unlike most war-themed games, like Call of Duties and the Medal of Honors, you don't actually play as a battle-hardened soldier, storming enemy territory with heavy artillery. Instead, you play as a ragtag group of survivors, tasked with maintaining your hideout during the day and scavenging for food and materials at night. It may sound kind of bizarre, but this game, at least in my opinion, is like a combination of The Sims and Papers, Please. But we can kind of get more into that later.
Sure.
What did you think of the game, Tim?
I liked it. Coming into it, I had this big thing like, oh, instead of playing the soldiers, you're playing the civilians in the war, and which was neat, but I think in terms of mechanics, it was a little less unique than its theme was. It falls into that typical survival genre that Minecraft popularized, where you're trying to survive. I'm not saying it's like Minecraft, because it's very different in a lot of ways, but in terms of building stuff, trying to find food, securing your shelter, that kind of stuff. It's pretty generic in that terms, but what makes it interesting is the theme, because you're playing civilians and it's really hard to survive because food is sparse, everyone else is just trying to survive, you're encountering other people, all sorts of things make it difficult, so I liked it, I really did. I would definitely say it's worth the money. It sucked me in. I put about 6 hours into it so far, and I definitely want to play more. There's a lot of randomness to it in terms of what characters you get and what areas are available of you to explore, what kind of items you scavenge and that kind of thing. So it's a different experience every time you play.
Yeah.
However, they change up what areas are available, but I'm pretty sure that each area is the same each time. Maybe not in terms of what items you scavenge, but at least like what
the layouts.
Yeah, layouts and events that happen and things like that. And so far in 2 different games, everyone has been consistent across that, but that could just be, coincidence. There might be other random events that pop up that I just never got a chance to witness.
Yeah, I think they also change the time of year that the game starts in when you start each campaign. That can determine, for instance, if you start right smack dab in winter, you're going to have a harder time starting out because you need to use more of your materials just keeping your people warm.
Sure.
In terms of my experience with the game, I've actually had a good time playing it as well. I thought it was a little slow to start and a bit surprising that it barely attempts to show you what you need to do to get started. But once you do get into the swing of things, it's incredibly addicting. I was pretty much planning how I was going to scavenge my next night before my current night was even completely finished. This is coming from someone who typically doesn't get into games that involve a lot of strategy and resource management. But I think that this game had the balance just right. It wasn't too overwhelming for me. And I also enjoy the random element to it, like you mentioned. And I think I enjoyed the randomness in the same way that I enjoy it in traditional roguelike games. Because there's always some excitement. When I send my scavenger somewhere, I just always hope that I'm going to come across exactly what I needed.
Right.
What I had planned out that I need to build, whether it be to get more food because everybody's starting to get hungry and I'm getting low, or if I had an upgrade in mind because, oh, that looks really cool. I want to upgrade my metalworks so I can start building an axe so I can break down all of my stuff. And as soon as I can do that, it's going to change everything, but I can't yet because I just need 2 more pieces of wood.
Right.
And so I send my people out or my person out to where I think there might be more wood, hoping to get it. And I just like that excitement, am I going to get it this time? And, I think they did a good job with the dark look and the feel of the game, both in terms of the setting and writing, as well as the graphical style, which has sort of a cool brushed charcoal look to it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, definitely. And lastly, I'm impressed by the replayability. Like you mentioned, there's a ton of randomness, all the way down to which survivors you're in control of when you start the game, and they all come with different skills too. Mm-hmm. One survivor's really good at cooking, which makes it easier to cook food to keep everybody full. One survivor, he's a handyman, which makes it easier for him to just build sort of things like furniture and equipment and whatnot, which is really important. Other survivors, I don't think their skills are quite as good.
I seem to have gotten good value out of the person who is good at bargaining.
Yes.
I seem to get pretty good trades using her.
Yeah, definitely. That's important. Bargaining's cool, too, because typically in the middle of the day, you're not getting new stuff you can only really get your new stuff when you scavenge at night, because
Right.
during the day you're sort of barred in your hideout because there's snipers outside. So when someone shows up at your door and they're like, look at all this cool stuff I have, what'll you give me for it? Getting any sort of advantage there is really good, because you can start getting your stuff going that same day. I personally think, for all those reasons that I mentioned, this War of Mine was also worth it for me.
Yeah, so we should kind of go in a little more in depth of what it's like. Like Dane mentioned, there's 2 different phases. There's the day phase and the night phase.
Yeah.
The day phase is when you're doing your building, doing your, kind of doing upkeep. You're making food, you're building furniture, you're kind of taking stock of where you're at and doing what you can to improve the predicament that you're in.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get people coming by, they say like, hey, I have a trade. Some people say, hey, my brother fell and broke his leg, I need help, and then you'll send a guy off for a day if you want to.
Sure.
Sometimes people even give you free stuff, which, to be honest with you, because the game is so dark and has such a
dog eat dog.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of. It seems like everyone's out to get you.
Yeah.
So the first time someone came by saying, hey, we got these vegetables that we grew, we have surplus, have some, I almost said no, because I thought they were going to trick us somehow.
Sure.
Like they were going to be poisoned or I don't know.
No, I had the same worry every time someone comes to my door. I'm like, the second I open that door, they're going to pull a gun on me and take some of my stuff.
Yeah, but it seems like, or at least in my experiences, nothing bad ever happened when someone came to the door.
Yeah, I didn't have that either, but you played for about 6 hours and had 2 fairly lengthy playthroughs. I only played for about 3 hours, and I got to day 11 or so. It's possible neither of us experienced anything where someone hostile comes to the door.
Exactly, yeah, I can imagine it being the case, although maybe they save that for the night, because during the night phase, you send one guy out to scavenge, and then you can either let your other people sleep or put them on guard or whatever, but when you come back from scavenging, sometimes you've been raided, and you'll end up losing things, or your people will be injured, or there's various things that can happen. So I think maybe the negative stuff is going to happen in the raid, and during the day, they allow you to kind of relax and just take stock.
That's very possible. And thinking about that, actually, I didn't really think about this until just now, but thinking about the random events, such as, do you want to send somebody to go help with something, or did something bad happen when you were out? That actually kind of makes me think of Oregon Trail. In a way.
True, yeah.
And some of the resource management kind of makes me think of that too, because it's like, how much meat do we have? How many vegetables do we have?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, Oregon Trail was the original survival, game.
Resource game.
Yeah, original resource management strategy survival game, and just like this War of Mine, it had a lot of random events. You get bit by a snake, you die of dysentery, that kind of thing. And this War of Mine had that kind of stuff. And
totally.
Yeah, so you basically during the night phase, you send a guy out to scavenge, and you get to pick one of several locations on a map, and each map or each location has a description of what type of things it may or may not have, and how many of the different things there are. It seemed odd, like in one case, it said huge amount of weapons, and I cleared it 100%, and I got a few weapon parts, but it didn't seem like a huge amount to me.
Sure.
So I'm not sure what metric they were using to use as descriptions.
I agree. Yeah, it wasn't completely balanced the way that it kind of led off.
Yeah, or I think it's based on the rareness of the material, because one place said like some materials and a huge amount of weapons, but there was way more materials than weapons, but I think it's because materials are so much more common in general.
Yeah.
That even though it only says some versus a huge amount, it's comparing that versus their overall rarity. I don't know, it's kind of difficult to...
That could be.
But I usually, if it said a huge amount or lots of food, that's typically the place I would go.
Usually a place that said lots of food pretty much just means there's at least one refrigerator on the premise.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
A decent amount of food in it, which a decent amount of food in this game is a lot of food.
Yeah, and I think it also takes into account people and the food that they're carrying. So, for example, there's this one that said a huge amount of food, but I'm pretty sure I would have had to kill or steal from the people that were there. Some cases it's other survivors, some cases it's militia, some cases it's the military. There's lots of different things. Sometimes it's just... There is a group of crazy women who try to kill you if you come near. Yeah.
Wow, I never actually saw that.
Yeah, I can't remember which place it was called, but yeah, it's kind of interesting because there's a building, you can walk through the bottom floor, but you can't get to the second floor other than jumping up from the outside, but there's there's a sniper, there's a chick with a sniper rifle guarding the outside, but then there's a little tunnel you can go underground and get to the building across the way. If you wanted to, you could, get a gun and set up from that side, shoot them,
And that's right, there is combat in this game, by the way.
Combat,
I don't think we mentioned that.
It's very, very simple. It's literally click a button and it tells you, and it does whatever
Sure.
the action with whatever weapon you're carrying. So it's really simple combat and not that engaging, but
yeah, and something that's also worth mentioning, though, is the act of, using the combat and murdering people, or even just stealing from people without killing them, will definitely cause your survivors to have, sort of moral dilemmas.
Yeah, they can get sad or depressed, and it also depends on the situation. For example, I killed a guy when he was about to rape a woman, and my guy did not feel sad at all about that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to me saying how simple the combat is, I should mention that all actions are simply pointing and clicking. It is like an adventure game in that way, where it's just pointing and clicking, but you have several people that you're commanding, and there's it's very simple, but it's still really engaging because you have lots of different options.
For sure. We mentioned that the graphic style had that sort of brushed charcoal look to it. I'm sure, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see video of the game and what it looks like and how it plays. But it's worth mentioning to kind of paint the picture for anybody that might not be watching a video of it or might not be familiar with how the game looks. It's a two-dimensional game. It's sort of a side-scrolling 2D, or I guess 2.5D, because it almost seems like things are modeled out.
Yeah.
But you're only seeing it from that side-scrolling perspective.
And you're only in one particular 2D plane. You never move back and forth or anything. So
it's just left and right.
Exactly.
Occasionally, you might jump into an open door. Gosh, how to describe
there's
that?
like a stealth element, so you can hide in like a doorway. So you'll kind of move into the shadows in the background, but you're never able to move left or right once you've done that.
Yeah, exactly. So really, you mainly just move left and right. And the music in the game is worth mentioning because it really also does a great job painting the setting. You've got your sort of acoustic guitar riffs.
Kind of a folky sound to it.
Yeah, almost reminiscent of the soundtrack in The Last of Us, if you're familiar with that. In a very similar feeling game too, dark.
And it's not just the music either, just the sound in general, because you've got like bombs going back in the background and gunfire and things like that to remind you that you are in the middle of a war that's ongoing.
For sure.
Honestly, there's not a lot of different tracks, so by the 5.5 hour mark, maybe, it was getting a little repetitive.
I can see that.
I really liked it. I really did, especially when you're scavenging, I'm pretty sure there's different scavenging music depending on whether or not you're encountering another person or not.
Oh, okay.
Where it gets kind of a little more fast-paced. It sounds like kind of like action-y.
Sure.
So it's really cool. I really like that, and then just like the day mode music was really, really atmospheric, but again, because it's just one track,
it gets repetitive.
And it's not a particularly long loop.
They should have definitely done a few tracks a la Minecraft, that just sort of come and go.
Right, exactly. Now you can do that because you can build a radio.
Yes.
And you can set it to like a classical music station, but
that was the only music station I could find on the radio.
Me too, and it wasn't good. Like, it wasn't good quality. The sound quality, it sounded like it was on an old beat up radio, and I just couldn't listen to that,
Yeah, but I guess that was the point.
Sure.
You can build a guitar and make your guy, play the guitar to try and forget about the war a little bit.
Yeah, I never
cool.
encountered the broken pieces that you need. So there's things you can build like a guitar and guns and stuff, but you have to have the broken pieces to repair them.
Yeah.
You're not building it so much as repairing it.
And not all the stuff that you build is really just the sort of survival stuff you'd think of, like weapons and food. Like, you can just build a recliner just to chill, and it'll make your guy feel a little bit better about life.
Yeah, and if you have a book, they'll sit down, they'll read a book.
Yeah.
And that helps them improve their mood, because what you want is for them to get content. I don't know that they ever get happy.
Feeling joyful.
I never saw it, and I would be surprised if that existed, because it's really a bleak existence.
Yeah.
But you can make them content.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, something else that's cool too is each survivor has their own sort of bio, and the bio sort of gets filled out as you go day by day. You'll kind of see what the character's perspective is when you click the little bio button on their
I never
face.
actually tried that, to be honest with you.
Oh, really? Yeah, and in the bottom corner, I only noticed it because the thing that says bio next to their name in the bottom corner actually starts to flash orange when they have a new entry.
I saw that, but I didn't know that that's what it meant. I was like, oh, it's telling me to look at the bio, but I was like, I have no interest in that right now. Like,
Sure.
I want to play the game.
You're always doing something else.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But yeah, I'd recommend next time you load it up, click the bio, because you'll kind of see things specifically from the perspective perspective of each individual survivor. So
yeah, and kind of on that note, we mentioned the radio. Another thing that you can do on the radio is get news.
Yeah,
and if you check day to day, you get like a almost like a journal of all the everything you heard over the days, and you kind of get word of what's, and it warns you of things like they'll say that there's guys that are trying to sell bad meat out there, so be wary of sketchy meat. I don't know that actually has an impact in the gameplay. I didn't actually witness that or encounter it myself, but
yeah,
it'd be interesting if it was.
That would be cool. I saw that same one on the radio. I don't know if, like you said, if someone shows up and tries to sell you meat, and now you know to be wary of the meat.
Right.
But that would be cool if they did do that. Maybe it was just for atmosphere. But the one thing, though, that is important that can help you prepare is the weather station, which can say, hey, it looks like it's going to be really cold tomorrow.
Right,
now
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
oh, crap, I should get extra stuff to fuel
make sure you
my
have
heater.
fuel, yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, I think we've done a good job painting a picture of the game.
Yeah, it's definitely something to check out. And it's only, what, $20?
$20 for what I think is a really good, like, fleshed out and unique experience.
Yeah, it felt really polished to me. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to check out our website, SharcTank.com, the shark with a C.
Yep, and I think we do plan on playing Far Cry 4 for next week's episode.
I believe
so we've
that's
got
the idea.
another AAA coming up here, and I'm really excited for it. I really enjoyed Far Cry 3, so
I've never played a Far Cry, so yeah.
Awesome.
It'll be new.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. All right, well, thanks so much for listening. Obviously, like the video if you like it. Subscribe to us to see all of the other cool videos that we release.
Yeah.
Leave some comments if you have suggestions for games you'd like us to play. And go ahead and have yourself a very nice day.
Bye!